Hey everybody, Adam here, and welcome back to Carpentober.
Carpentober.
If you can't tell by the energy that I'm putting off, I am real excited about this episode. Today I'm going to be discussing the 1982 horror classic, The Thing, which is my absolute favorite John Carpenter movie, and my favorite movie of the exceptional year of 1982. And if you know me, you know that I believe 1982 was the best year for movies. Setting the gold standard for remakes, The Thing is a brand new take, or a modern take, on the 1951 science fiction classic The Thing from Another World. And Carpenter basically improves on everything, really. It stars Kurt Russell in his third starring role for John Carpenter. First with the TV movie Elvis, and then Escape from New York, and now The Thing. It also features Keith David from the upcoming They Live movie in 1988. T.K. Carter from TV, and I'm pretty much the only person that probably remembers Dr. Detroit, but he was in that movie too. And an almost unrecognizable mustacheless Wilford Brimley before the days of Quaker Oats and diabetes. The movie is about a small group of scientists in Antarctica discovering that they are not alone. After an intense and effectively misleading opening sequence, a mystery begins to unfold, leading the scientists to find an alien spaceship buried under the ice at another research station, which is mysteriously empty. Well, except for one body, and it looks like it was two people fused together in some weird facial melding, and that's the beginning of some mysterious thing that they need to try to figure out. Now things even get more interesting and mysterious as they start an autopsy on the fused two-person body, where they find like all the organs are still there and basically untouched. But as this is going on, the alien creature appears for the first time in the station's kennel. And from here on out, the movie never stops. After tests and finishing the autopsy, the team realizes that they are dealing with something in an alien origin. Even they don't want to believe it, but they do, because they find this giant spacecraft. They also come to the conclusion that this creature can infect people without giving the host any type of knowledge that it's infected. That's what gives the movie its most effective element: paranoia. The idea of people not knowing that they are infected until they are provoked is what gives the movie its most valuable asset. And it's cool because there are hints and misdirections to show that absolutely nobody is able to be trusted. Little things peppered in that anybody could be a suspect. It is executed perfectly, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat onto who's guessing who really is the thing.
Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Through the COVID lockdown, a lot of people are playing this game called Among Us, and it's basically The Thing, where you don't know who's the bad guy, and you have to figure it out. And there's an Arctic base level in that silly little game, but it was all made from the idea of this movie. And that's the power of paranoia. It makes this movie so fun to watch, and especially for the first time. It's one of those movies I wish I could erase from my mind and go back and watch it for the first time again, not knowing anything about it, going in to see it blind. People have asked me, if you could go into a time machine and go to any time and see, and what would you do? And my answer usually was go back to 1979 and see people's reaction to the movie Alien. And it still is, but my number 2 would be going to 1982 and seeing people's reaction to The Thing, because it's a highly effective movie done really well. But let's go back to the plot. Now, it's not just one person that's infected. Once the infected is killed, it can transfer to another person through its blood or the blood of its host. They say in the movie, when humans bleed, it's out, it's on there. When this thing bleeds, it's bleeding its cells, and that's how it continues on its life cycle. And this also adds to the tension because it just whittles down the cast one by one. And it seems that the creature's goal is to go from planet to planet, taking over entire populations, and to survive after this crash. It just wants to survive. And it can also survive while being frozen. It just goes into a hyper sleep? No, it goes into a hibernation sleep until it is thawed. But it cannot survive fire. That's its big weakness. And there's a lot of fire in this movie. They didn't even figure that out. They're just like, well, we're surrounded by ice. Let's just use a flamethrower on it and, cleanse by fire. And it worked. And it seems to be not really a weakness. It's just vulnerable to fire. Speaking of fire, the movie ends with the entire installation blowing up and only 2 survivors sitting in the cold, talking to each other, waiting to freeze to death. And that's what makes even the ending so effective, because one of the survivors could be the creature and just go to sleep, or both of them are just human and will freeze to death. And in my opinion, that's like the perfect ending for this movie. When it's down to just one person and the creature, or 2 people not knowing who's what, the only way to end the movie is to freeze to death. One may wake up and take on the world. Hopefully not. But that's the John Carpenter ending, the open downer ending, or could be downer ending. That's kind of like a staple of his, and it's great. It's a great horror ending, and it keeps you thinking even after almost 40 years now. But let me talk about the star of the movie, and I'm not talking about Kurt Russell, because I could just do a whole video on Kurt Russell. The star of the movie is the creature itself. Now, with it being a shapeshifter, you never see it in its original form. I mean, it might not even have an original form. It could be just a cell, or just a pile of goo, or a swirly tube of green evil. We don't know. In the movie, it has been hypothesized that this creature has visited millions of planets and taken over countless life forms, which gave the creature, they're over here, which gave the creature department carte blanche to do anything they wanted, because the creature could look like anything it wants to look like. And thanks to makeup master and creature artist Rob Bottin, this creature is a marvel of practical effects. Being a movie in 1982, there are things Bottin created that CGI artists can't even fathom to think of today. And what makes it even more exciting is everything is done in front of the camera. There aren't any rear projected scenes with the creature. There's only one stop motion scene, and that's at the very end. And at that point, it's not even the creature. It's just a couple tentacles. So I don't even really count. The creature effects alone are right in front of the camera, right in front of the actors, and they can act and react with these just unbelievable creature effects that they still blow my mind. They blew my mind just now when I watched it. And the distorted and disgusting human transformations will still impress me. They are gross, and they will always be heralded as a mastercraft in creature design. Unfortunate for the movie, critics such as Roger Ebert hated the movie, saying it was just gross out trash, and not even noticing the effective acting and the believable feeling of paranoia that keeps you guessing even after the movie's over. All he wanted to do was complain that the creature was shown too much and that it was an excuse to show all these gross out things, and that it didn't keep the spirit of the 1951 original, which is yet another reason not to trust critics. They're garbage people, and I will say that to their faces. Because they already have their minds made up, even before watching the movie. And I could do a whole video on how I could do another video after my Kurt Russell video. I'll do a video on how critics are terrible people. They want to tell you what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad. They don't want you open to your opinion. They just, if they don't like it, then it's bad, and that's not a good thing to do. Art is subjective. Art is something that you take in personally. Art is something that you find a connection with, or you don't find a connection at all. It's not good. It's not bad. So film critics can go to hell, because The Thing is just shy of movie perfection. In fact, the only gripe I have is the score. And it hurts my heart to say that, because John Carpenter did not do the score. He put his flair on the score. He teamed up with the late legendary film composer Ennio Morricone, known for the fantastic spaghetti westerns and Once Upon a Time in America. And he's just a legend in his field, which makes me really, really upset about this, because even though it's a minimal score, it's a bit too minimal. It fits the movie. It fits the picture just fine, but I just don't think it's enough. It feels like a waste to not fully use Morricone's genius and have the John Carpenter seal on it. You can tell it's a Carpenter movie. He basically did a Carpenter score, and for the movie, I guess he did a good job. It's just not one of my favorite scores on there. Of course, like I was talking about before, that's just my opinion, and others may disagree, and that's fine. It's just the one thing that doesn't make it a perfect movie to me. And it's a near perfect, effective film of claustrophobia, of tension and mistrust, and it holds its legacy close to its heart with its vigor, and it will never be forgotten. It's on mine and a lot of others' lists as one of the best achievements in modern horror. Even John Carpenter himself said it's his favorite movie that he's ever made. And it's still wowing people, and hopefully it will continue. And that's the thing with 80s movies before the invention of CGI taking over for creature effects. And I'm not knocking CGI. Some CGI stuff is fantastic. Some CGI stuff works better than practical. But when you're working in a world that you don't have a choice, you have to make this stuff look like it's supposed to look like its best stuff. That's when you get the product that you really, really want, because you've worked so hard to do it. And again, I'm not knocking CGI. I mean, Jurassic Park's one of my absolute favorite movies of all time too. There's tons of good CGI stuff in the world. I don't think it's a lazy art either. I'm putting that out there too. I just think I'm just wowed by practical effects. I'm wowed by especially the stuff Rob Bottin did for this movie. You watch it and it's visceral. It's tactile. You see it happen, and it's really happening to these actors. And I think that's just another thing that just gives it its effectiveness. This movie is so beloved that it has spawned a sequel comic book series by Dark Horse, a semi-sequel video game that was really good, and a decent yet flawed prequel/reboot movie that only suffered because of too much CGI, mainly because the original remake I always call the 82 the original. I know that's not right. John Carpenter's original. Just like my rant just then was all about the practical effects being right in your face, and that was the only thing that didn't turn me off of the new thing. It just kind of took you out of it. I'll put it that way. It took you out of it. But the movie is here to stay, and it still remains a technical achievement that moved creature and effects design into the future. And we wouldn't have this movie if it wasn't for John Carpenter getting this gig for having to do a studio movie. And they said, we want you to redo the thing from Another World. And he didn't want to do it. But sometimes you got to do the studio film to get the money to do your indie films. And he took it as a serious project, and he did what he does best and made his own version of the thing. And it just blew my and probably everybody's mind that saw it, except for Roger Ebert. But he's dead now, so you don't have to worry about his stupid remarks. But do you love the thing? Do you hate it? Are you a horror fan, or are you Roger Ebert? That's not fair. Horror fans can hate this movie too. Do you love the thing, or do you not like the thing? Do you like the other Thing movies better? The Thing from Another World or the Thing from the early 2000s? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, especially on stuff that I love. You can crush me if you want to. If you don't like them, you can tell me why I'm wrong. And I'll take that under consideration. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Not only does it make me feel good, but it helps the channel grow. And speaking of the channel, check out all the other great stuff we have going on by going to cinemadnesspodcast.com and follow us on social media for even more content. We have Guess That Movie things on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We're all over the place. We have fun little games for the people following us, and polls and all sorts of stuff. And it's fun. I'm gonna cut my losses here. Thank you for joining me to talk about my favorite John Carpenter horror movies. Carpentober has been really fun, and I'm already excited for next year's lineup. Happy Halloween, happy Carpentober, and I'll see you for the next retro rewatch event, whatever that may be.